It's a new year. It's a great time to look at making improvements in our lives and changes. A lot of us do that every year in the form of resolutions. However, the problem with resolutions is they're not very effective. If you look at the gym on January 1st, how crowded it is, and then you go back in March or April, it's going to be back to normal. And the reason is because there's just not a lot of power behind resolutions. That's why I'm a bigger fan of goals. For some people, resolutions can be pretty weak sauce. The reason for that is because they just don't do any follow through, and it's more like just making a wish.
Wish I had $1 million. Hot dog!
So I'm going to share with you some tips that will help you set and accomplish your goals more effectively. The very first step though is you want to write your goals down. If it's not written, it's just a wish, it's just a, wouldn't that be nice someday? When you actually put it to paper and write it down and read it, it brings power to it. People have known this for a long time.
So let it be written. So let it be done.
Another thing to keep in mind is that there's short, mid, and long-term goals. A short-term goal might be like a day to maybe a month. Mid-term could be months to the end of the year, and long-term is going to be a year or longer. So it's important that you have goals in all these areas. Now, before you tune out, this is going to get exciting, so just a minute.
Wait, let me tell you something. All right. Let me tell you something. Wait.
I'm usually not a fan of acronyms. They're very seldom work well. There's always a letter or two that don't quite fit that they've had to manipulate to fit in there. Hopefully I won't do that with this one. You be the judge, but I want to share with you some SMART goals. You've probably seen this before, made a little bit of an adjustment to it, but these will help you be more effective as you set goals. So number one is to be specific. You've probably heard people make goals like, I want to make more money or I want to lose weight. The problem is these are so vague. You could find a quarter on the sidewalk and hey, you already made more money, you hit your goal. When it comes to your health and your weight, there's lots of ways you can lose weight. You can get sick, you can get AIDS, have chemotherapy, you can lose some limbs. So there's tons of horrible ways you can lose weight. So that's why I'm a fan of having specific goals. It's better to have a goal of I'm going to lose 8 pounds of fat or lose 2 inches off my waist measurement. Something like that's a lot more specific. M stands for measurable. How do you know if you've reached a goal if you can't even measure it? Imagine what sports would look like if we didn't have time clocks, out of bounds, yard lines, all those sort of things that we measure success for. It makes a big difference when you can actually measure something and know that you've accomplished it, you can prove it. So some examples of this is I want to be able to do like 10 pull-ups, or I would like to run a 5K in under 30 minutes. Something like that's going to be a measurable goal that you know when you've done it. A stands for accountability. I've seen different versions of this where they use a different word for that, but it's kind of redundant with one I'm going to show you in a minute. So we're sticking with accountability. This is important because if you have a goal to go walking in the mornings and it's winter and it's starting to get cold and it's so much easier just to roll over in bed and say, I'll do it later. But if you have a walking partner, someone you're accountable to, you'll get up when it's inconvenient and uncomfortable. Same thing with a trainer, when you've got someone you're going to report to about how your nutrition went, how your exercise sessions went during the week, you're going to do a lot better job if you have that accountability factor. So it's always nice when you have like a coach or a mentor or a friend or someone that you can work with and share those goals when they're supportive of it. Okay, on a side note, there is an exception when you don't want to share your goals with someone, and that is when it's someone who's not going to be supportive of it. So if someone's going to be making fun of it or saying it's dumb or not supporting you, those aren't the people you want to be sharing your goals with.
Oh, you put all this nonsense behind you, Homer. Thought you weren't going to be doing
Dad,
it.
it isn't nonsense.
R stands for realistic. I'm all for shooting for the stars and dreaming big and having big goals, and I understand that so many things that we experience and enjoy today were once thought to be impossible by people years ago. So I get that idea, but at the same time, you don't want to set too high a goals that are just too crazy. The reason for that is it's so easy to get discouraged if they don't happen as fast enough or if you don't have a realistic view of it. So an example of this, someone might have gained 30 pounds over a couple of years, and then they set a goal, I'm going to lose 30 pounds next month. And you got to give yourself some more time for something like that. If I had a goal that I want to play in the NBA as a center, I'm going to have a goal to grow 10 inches, and stuff like that's just not going to happen. So we want to set goals that will be challenging, but realistic. So many times we set goals that are so high and it's just so easy to say, oh, that's not going to happen, and you get discouraged and quit. Some people really fool themselves when they have goals and are kind of kidding themselves and out in la la land when it comes to what they think is possible.
What do you think the chances are of a guy like you and a girl like me ending up together?
I'd say more like 1 out of 1,000,000.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
T stands for time sensitive. This is one that is really a catalyst and helps you get things done. Think about in high school when you had a paper due. You'd always wait till the night before and then you'd work on it right then just because you knew you had that deadline. So Deadlines and time sensitivity can make a big difference when it comes to accomplishing your goals. That's what gets you moving and gets you productive and gets you into action.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
So this year when you're setting fitness goals, instead of saying I want to lose weight or I want to get stronger, be smart. Use SMART goals. Remember to keep them specific, measurable, have that accountability factor, keep them realistic, and have a timetable. Some examples of these might be, if you're working on your sleep, you can say, every night this week, I'm going to be in bed with all electronics turned off by 11 p.m. Or you could say, by July 24th, I'm going to have 18% body fat. Or by September 7th, I'm going to be able to do 25 consecutive push-ups. Or you might say, by the end of the year, I'm going to walk or run 365 total miles. When you have goals like this, they're going to be more effective and you have a higher chance of achieving them than if you just set some vague wish. I hope you have a healthy, happy, and prosperous new year. Stay tuned for more videos.
Push the button.
Do it.